Good morning, Yonkers Voice, and we now welcome Mr. John Rubbo, our councilman from the 4th District. John, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Let's cut to the chase, because
Sure.
we know there's a lot of people that are wondering. Switching from Republican to Democrat, what was the reasoning for that? I think it's on a lot of people's minds.
Sure. I've always been a person of convictions. I've been a lifelong Republican. I'm 37 years old. When I was in college at Iona, I remember specifically where I was walking, and there was a table set up there, and there was someone that I went to elementary school with, and he said, "You're signing up for the Republican Party," and I signed up for the Republican Party. I stand by my principles, but with that said, I've always been very much in the middle. I've always really tried to help people, especially through my business, whether it be people in the arts organizations or homeless community or the Y. We've always really tried to have that social outreach to help people. And I'd say that's really weighed on me as I made a decision of what I wanted to do. And I'm still John Rubbo at the end of the day. So the people that supported John Rubbo 2 years ago, I'm the same person. I'm the same person who genuinely cares about Yonkers, who genuinely cares about what I'm doing every single day at work, who genuinely cares about my family, and who just wants to see things move forward. And I think that I can get that job done and will continue to get that job done, and now as a Democrat.
Okay, so here's my next question for you. Yonkers has, we have to speak a little louder.
Sure.
Yonkers has been voted the safest city in New York State. And granted, a lot of that is because we have a very good police force behind us.
Right.
Now, as a Democrat, a lot of your Democratic Party has voted on bills in the state as far as raise the age and the bail reform. Totally against it. I think that we're allowing criminals to run our streets. As a Democrat, do you feel with these new laws, Yonkers can still be one of the safest cities?
Yeah, so we've worked very hard over the past especially 2 decades, and by we, I mean the police department. Police department has worked very hard over the last 2 decades to make Yonkers a very safe city. And so it's the FBI that takes a look at all crime statistics, and they say based on where you were and based on cities your size in the United States, you are the safest city in the United States of your size. And I think when you go to community meetings, what you hear now is mostly about things like more quality of life issues for the police department. So things like shoplifting now has become, because I represent the Cross County Shopping Center. So shoplifting at Cross County has been a topic of discussion. People breaking into cars randomly on Bronx River Road every now and then. Those are the quality of life issues that we're dealing with. We're not dealing with murder rates. We're not dealing with rape. We're not dealing with shootings as much as we were.
Right. But now with these new laws that are out there,
right,
it is giving our police department, which I have the utmost respect for,
right,
to be a little harder for them, to be a little harder in the job that they do, because you're talking about someone that can be charged with manslaughter in the 2nd degree. They go in front of a judge and it's given a desk appearance ticket. Now the chances of that person coming back is not all that good. So now that puts our warrant squad in a tougher spot, because now they have to go look for them, and they're going into situations that they don't really know. So it kind of has me worried that we may be putting more strain on our police department.
So where I feel a little comfort in the changes that were made is that that I think our police department is led by a very good commissioner and very good chiefs, and we're not alone in the changes.
No.
And so we're going to be a part of police departments around the state that are going to have to deal with this. So I feel a little bit of comfort in the fact that I think we're led by some very talented people, and they are also members of various organizations around Westchester County and New York State. So I think we have to take a look at what's going to happen. Do I worry? Yeah, I worry about any major change that comes down from Albany. The one change I would like to see come down from Albany is funding for our schools. So maybe that'll be another topic.
Now, there's my next question for you. Obviously, when you ran your campaign the first time you ran as a Republican, I was a big supporter of yours, even though you weren't in my district. Yeah. I believed in you.
Thank you.
You did run a campaign based on the fact you weren't going to raise taxes, which there was other people that did too. Well, and then went and voted on it. So that kind of has me like, all right, John, I want to, you know.
So like, I didn't run a campaign that I would keep taxes flat. My campaign, and we can pull back some of the literature, it says we're going to hold the line on taxes. And that's often the wording that I used, was hold the line on taxes. So, but I knew that we would need to raise taxes, especially my first budget, because I knew what the budget looked like. I knew that the final phase of raises for our workforce were going to be coming up, and the revenue that we had wasn't going to meet the expenses that were coming. So I could never go out and promise, and I'm sure there are plenty of you Facebook videos or whether I was at Hyatt or you know on this channel. But you'll never see me say I will never raise taxes, but I wanted to hold the line on taxes. And that's what we're working on. And I think we've put ourselves in a pretty good position now where we finally have a contingency fund of about $5 million that, you know, so to speak, is our rainy day fund. So we can start to be a little bit more responsible as we're trying to grow the city.
Now, contracts will be coming up again, right?
Yeah.
They'll be coming up again. Yeah. I have the utmost respect for our police department, our fire department, teachers. Yeah. I have the utmost
all
respect
of our city
for them.
workers.
They're out there, especially our police department are out there 24/7.
Right.
And they're facing tough times. What I don't feel is that we should be catering to those contracts, but we do have a school system that is failing, and we have a state that's not helping us.
Right.
So I'm not really crazy about going into all these big contract talks, knowing that we have a school system. Has the school system come a long way? Yes, it has, but it can also needs to go a lot further.
Right.
What would you do differently now that you're a Democrat to focus more on the schools and not focus so much on those contracts? What would you do differently?
Well, so first, whether Republican or Democrat, I've always supported the schools. I send my son is now in a pre-K program in the Yonkers public schools. I went to Catholic school growing up, but I believe that, especially our elementary schools, we have a very good public school system, and our high schools are doing better and better. And especially as we see this next generation of students, you know, rise through our high school system, we're going to continue to do better and better. But we need the resources, and so we live in a very expensive area. We're in Westchester. Even though if you take a look at property taxes here versus other parts of Westchester, I mean, for the same house in Yonkers versus Mount Vernon, you may pay $4,000 or $5,000 less a year in property taxes, and it's pretty significant. We do need the resources for our school system. Last year, Yonkers added an additional $12 million in recurring aid to the schools. We need the state to do significantly more. There's a formula up there that's broken. The formula takes a look at property values, it takes a look at income levels, and so yes, property values are higher here than Buffalo. You can probably buy a home in Buffalo for $100,000. You're going to buy a home down here for $450,000. But you're making a little bit more on average down here in income. But that's not the right way to take a look at this.
No, not at all. But now we have, obviously, since Mayor Spano's been mayor, we've had a lot of redevelopment in Yonkers. Yonkers has come a long way, and it looks beautiful. I honestly love the way everything is coming, and we have all these development. And I'm all for developing. We have to do it.
Right.
When these developers are coming in, and we are giving them the incentive with the tax breaks and stuff like that, why can't we also give that incentive to say, hey, listen, you want to come into our city, you want to build, that's great. We want you here, it brings more people coming to our city, but we also would like you to do something for our schools. Say this one needs a new gym, or this one needs work done in the classroom. We need books donated. Why can't we, as a community, as the city of Yonkers, ask them also, as we're giving to them, to give us back a little bit more and maybe do something for our schools? Since the state's not going to change, we've been fighting this for years,
right.
And it seems like every year we get the same story,
Right.
But so why can't we make it more interesting for the developers to say, okay, well, you know what, I'll donate books, or I'll some way fix a school for you. Is that anything that can be done? Can you talk to them or speak to them about that?
Yeah. So yes. Is the short answer. The long answer is that there, and this is where certain people, we all have great ideas, and you see many of these great ideas, like on the Yonkers Voice, on the comments. So for something like that to happen, we'd have to have a fund available where they would be putting money into a fund, and then we'd have to disperse the money, and then does it go through the IDA? Does it go through the city of Yonkers? A developer wouldn't be able to just come in and do the work and say, all right, we're developers, we have contractors, we'll go in and fix your gym. We'd probably be violating a ton of labor
laws.
Right, because that work belongs to unions within our city. But many of these groups, many of the developers, they give back in many different and smaller ways throughout the year, and ongoing, whether it be for sponsoring events, maybe not directly related to the school system, but tonight is my brother's keeper dinner. And many of these developers will buy tables at the dinner, they give to the organization, they try to support the organization. Or another one is the Yonkers Partners in Education. As they raise money to try to help kids prepare for college and SATs, many of these developers are also contributing to organizations like that. So although they may not be repairing a gym, which is needed, they're given back in other ways. So now taking a couple steps back to where you started there. I'm waiting on one set of numbers, which I wish I had for this interview, but I'm waiting on one set of numbers that tells us the property values of all of the developed property and what revenue the city was receiving from those properties before they were developed. So that's the one component I don't have. What I do have is over the last 10 years, all right, we got to look at the questions.
We have some questions.
So over the last 10 years, the income tax surcharge that we have, right? So if you just take a look at the income tax surcharge, straight and level over the last 10 years, more and more people have been moving into the city. Maybe they're a little bit higher income, but with all of the apartments we've built, we've increased the income tax revenue by $34 million a year.
Okay.
So now every single year, we're generating $34 million more in income tax revenue than we were 10 years ago. In sales tax, because of improvements to Cross County, Ridge Hill, the shopping districts, new shopping, income tax has gone up $13 million a year over the past 10 years. So over the past 10 years, we're receiving $50 million more in new revenues every single year because of all of this economic development, because of attracting new people to the city. And these same new people, they need to find a place to shop. They need to find a place to eat. Dangling the carrot for the developers years ago to say, like when Mayor Spencer said, hey, Art Collins, who developed most of the early stage of the waterfront, he hung that carrot out and said, we'll give you a tax incentive to come and build. He came, he built, it started to spread, more people came, they built, and so it created this momentum that the city really needed. Now, I'd really like to see what the property tax number looks like.
Okay, well, a lot of people, some of the comments on here, or questions, they're not really questions, they're not really comments that I'm gonna say on live air.
Sure.
A lot of people would question, and I've seen it come up often, that while we have all this development going on and we have all these beautiful buildings going up down on the riverfront, and yes, we are attracting people from Brooklyn, Queens, they're coming, and I think that's great. It's more people in our city.
Right.
A lot of people do feel like they're being pushed out, that there's not affordable housing, they're being pushed out of the community.
Right. So I had a conversation this morning with an attorney who helps organize things here within the city. He's been in the city for a very long time and is very knowledgeable. So I wanted to pick his brain a little bit. And the topic was affordable housing. And it was affordable housing because it's been a topic amongst the Democratic caucus. And so years ago, an ordinance was put in that for every new building, 10% of the units needed to be affordable. So if you build a 400 unit building, 40 of those units needed to be offered they needed to be built for affordable purposes. So people could apply to live in those. Now, that message barely ever gets out, right? So most people probably who are commenting don't even realize that they can probably apply for and be accepted into one of those affordable units. And so and it's really open to everyone. It's not, I think it's based on 80% of what's of the average median income in Westchester County. So 80% of that is $80,000 a year. So if you make $80,000 or less every year, you would apply for one of these units.
So then, how do people find out about that? Why is it that they don't know about it, and how do they? I'm sure everyone would love to live down by the water.
Right.
How do they find out about it?
So some of my council colleagues had some really good ideas about, and I think this was Corazon Pineda-Isaac who came up with this idea, is putting it out on the website, putting it on the city website to say, okay, RXR, which is the new development on Main Street, or Avalon, which is on Alexander Street, or any of the future development, here's the number of units available, here's how you would contact someone to apply for the units, go on and have fun, get at it. And that's another way for you to be able to apply for some of those affordable units. In addition to that, and so it's not, people say affordable, maybe, especially in Yonkers, you get scared. Especially people who've lived here for a long time say, oh, affordable is Section 8, affordable is DSEG, affordable is, it's workforce housing. If you come out of college and you have a $100,000 school loan and you're a social worker making $40,000 a year, well, you can live on the waterfront in a beautiful apartment. And so I think we could take it a couple steps further. There are some other things that we can do, but
to promote it.
Right. And as a part of this, there are much deeper and further discussions that can be had, because the affordable ordinance allows for the developers to say, hey, you know what? Instead of putting the affordable unit in our building, we're going to put the money into a fund. And then the city can take that money and theoretically build affordable units in various parts of the community so that it is a little bit more affordable to people, for people. I have this idea where I'd like to see some of that money in the fund be used as grant money. So if you're a owner-occupied multifamily house, if you have a two-family house somewhere around here, it has to be within the developed area. But you could say, hey, look, apply to the fund. We'll give you a little bit of money to fix up your house, but you have to rent it out at an affordable rate so that we're growing our base of affordable housing. There's so many really creative, out-of-the-box things that we can do. Father Pat Carroll Green, which is workforce housing on Ashburton and Nepperhan.
Yes, I've seen that.
And they're two-family houses. And so they were affordable units. I think it was like maybe $200,000 for the house, two-family. And you had to be owner-occupied. So you would live in one. You would rent the other unit out to someone, so you'd be able to help pay for the mortgage. And I think it goes much further than just affordable housing or having affordability to live here. It goes to home ownership. You're now giving someone the opportunity to purchase and own a home that maybe before they couldn't afford to.
Let's see. I don't see anything that's, what are we doing for the 65? That's another thing that I think comes up, our senior citizens.
Mm-hmm.
Yonkers, we do have a large community of senior citizens,
right.
And a lot of people feel that the senior citizens, they're being left out on a lot of things. A lot of them are struggling. What is the city doing for the 65 and over? Like, what is out there for them? For help that they need, maybe with housing or their medical, their prescription costs, food. What is out there for them?
So if you're talking housing, anyone, there's no limit on your age, you can apply for one of the units in the downtown. And I say downtown because really that's where the bulk of new development is happening, right? Or on Warburton Avenue, and one of the affordable units in one of the new projects there. If you're 65 and older and you want to sell your house and move into a smaller apartment and your annual income is less than, say, $80,000, well, you can have a one-bedroom in one of these beautiful buildings. So just like the youth, it's also there for the seniors. And then the further step of what else we do for seniors, Kelly Chiarella runs an incredible Office of the Aging for the City of Yonkers.
Yes, she does.
So whether it's delivering food every day to people, whether it's giving them rides to doctor's appointments, helping them look at bills, there are lots of programs that Kelly has. She often runs a health fair, flu shots, and then beyond Kelly, there are a handful of senior centers that are open 5 days a week all across the city. So between the city, the county with paratransit and getting people around there are a lot of things that are available for senior citizens.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
I think some newspaper or article, and I forget where it was, said that Yonkers and some place in Florida were the two most attractive places for seniors to move.
Seniors, yes, yeah. I did read that. Mary McCronin says that a one-bedroom in Yonkers is $2,000 a month. Who can afford that?
I don't know where. Maybe that's in Lawrence Park West. I don't know. I know when my grandfather had sold after many years of building on Yonkers Avenue, just outside of Empire City Casino, that he had 2 bedrooms and he was renting them for $1,000 a month. So that's just a personal story. But if there are others, I don't know.
Okay. So now the next question is, and I guess you can answer this the way you want. Going from Republican to Democrat, what have you done different since you switched over? Have you done anything different? Have you changed anything, or?
I have not offered up any legislation yet as a Democrat. I am working on a piece of legislation which I decided to hold over until January. But what it does is it outlaws in Yonkers the use of exotic animals at circuses, and so I met with 2 women who live in my district who are very active within the animal rights groups, and so they wanted us to piggyback off of Greenberg's laws on how you can't use exotic animals at circuses. So that would be the first, I guess, piece of legislation I'd be offering to the city council to consider as a Democrat. The only other thing I worked on just recently was a street renaming for Pat Murphy. Pat was he was a veteran business person on McLean Avenue. He owned the BP station over by Rory Dolan's, and he died of cancer just over a year ago, 9/11 related, and so we're going to be naming a section of the street after Pat.
Okay. Something else my heart, because you've been there, like so many other people from day one. The school shooting yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that when there's something like that, and it's tragic, and I'm not trying to take away from it, everybody's out there and they're screaming, they're yelling, and we need tougher gun laws, and we need this, and we need that. And New York has all of that. We don't discuss the illegal gun issue, which I don't understand why, but we'll get to that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever fear that as big as we are, that can happen here? And are we prepared for something like that? I mean, no one's ever prepared for it, but...
Right. So you're, like you said, we're never really prepared for something like that to happen because it sadly happens so quickly. Our police department and our fire department participates in active shooter drills at our schools, and every single school building is supposed to be equipped with emergency standards if something were to happen. Just like fire drills as kids when we were growing up, they were fire drills, and you go in a line, you walk outside. Now, unfortunately, just the time that we live in, there are active shooter drills, and it's a sad reality. What we need is for elected officials to focus on that topic, other than when a shooting happens.
When it happens.
Right. And that was something that we had asked the superintendent. We've asked them a number of times, and I think they've come forth with a very prepared plan. God forbid something happens. They work very closely with the police department, which is incredibly important. Some of our schools have been fitted out with enhanced security systems. Mm-hmm. And so with that security system, and I know there are 3 schools right now that have this security system where if there's something going on in the school, every single police car that arrives to the scene from their car can see what's going on. And so they're more prepared as they approach the scene. To put that in every single school, it's almost $1 million a school. We've already spent $3.5 million installing it in 3 schools. So it is important, like every other priority.
Like every other priority.
Right. So.
But with everything comes a price tag, and here we're talking about putting a price tag on lives. What about in general? Active shooter drills, just in general in Yonkers. Do we have that? Have we ever had anything like that? I mean, I don't remember having it, but it's very well possible that we could have done it.
Our school system and the police department do run active shooter drills. Even here and in the city council and city hall, there's a plan for, God forbid, there's a shooter, and where you go, and how you barricade yourself away from any potential harm. But our schools, every single school has a plan. Okay,
well, with that being said, moving forward now to the future, mm-hmm. Mayor Spano's been reelected, which is a good thing. Mm-hmm. What else? What would you like to tell the audience? What your goal is moving forward with Yonkers?
My primary goal for Yonkers is now the education system. So last year, as part of the budget, I was a big proponent of seeing that $12 million put into the schools as recurring aid. On top of that, now, we don't necessarily dictate the school budget. We make some very aggressive and good negotiation back and forth between the superintendent and the board of trustees. They come, they present, they ask us how much money they need, and then it's our responsibility to go back and say, okay, if we give you this, can you do that? And maybe each of us have some different priorities. So I believe that not every student will excel in the classroom. And so some excel on the ball field, on the basketball court, or somewhere else. So I asked the superintendent if we can get him how much he needed in order to bring back JV sports across the district. And he said he needed $1.5 million. So we were able to find $750,000. So now spring JV sports are being brought back with a few different sports programs in the district next year. So that was something that was important that I wanted to fight for. And I'm going to continue to fight to bring back full JV sports through the district in the years to come. Everything has a price tag. So we have to figure out where do we get the money? Is it from an increase in taxes? Is it from making cuts somewhere? We have to figure out where it's going to come from, right? But that's where during the budget season we roll up our sleeves and figure it out. But education is one of my top priorities because education affects absolutely everyone, whether you have a child in the school system or not. If we have a really good school system, your property value is going to go up, the value of your home. So if you've lived in Yonkers for 40 or 50 years, like my grandparents, and now my parents, my mom's parents have passed, but when they moved to Yonkers in the 60s, they bought their house for $16,000.
Wow!
Right. So now it's probably worth about $400,000. So if we can better the school system and continue to do better there, and have people really believe in the school system, then what that allows is people will continue to move here. And so the property values will go up because there's going to be a demand for housing. So if you are that senior, like someone asked earlier, and you're over 65 and you say, you know what, I want to downsize. Well, if we have a really great school system that people want to move into, then your property value is going to continue to go up.
I'll go with that.
And then just one other I'll say. So, and then having a really good education system, now you're producing young adults who have come through a good education system. And so now there's a better pool of people to pick from when you're opening or running a business. So if you want to attract some really good, like an Amazon or a Facebook, or if you want to attract a really big corporation to come here, then you have to point to your school system and say, look, we're producing really great tradespeople or
I think we should have more trade schools in the city of Yonkers. I think trade schools are definitely, because not everybody is a book kid. Some people are hands.
Right.
Shamika Jones said, my taxes went up $350. Where is the added cost going? Can you answer that for her?
They went up $350. So I don't know over what period of time that is, or where she lives, what her taxes look like, or whether she's ever grieved her taxes, which she can certainly do. We haven't reassessed properties in this city since 1954, which means we haven't had someone go out to your house and say, okay, you did this work, you did that work, or your house is worth $800,000 or $400,000 or $500,000. So our property values are all over, which is another conversation if you want to get into it as part of the budget, right? But so where have the added value go? Over the last 2 years, we haven't cut a single police officer, teamster, or garbage man, or firefighter. We've maintained all city services. We've added significantly more money to the school system. Over the past 2 years since I've been on the council, we've sent the school system $50 million in construction money. $50 million to put towards a variety of construction projects around the school.
Well, to my question that I asked you about the active shooter, one of Yonkers' finest has answered and told me, or you call the police the finest and the
bravest?
The bravest are the fire department. So one of Yonkers' finest did say that they did do an active drill. They
Right.
do it, and the media is let know, but for obvious reasons, they're not allowed inside. Obviously, education is a big thing. I would like to see more going towards the police department because I think that they're a big plus for us. I'd like to see a little bit more to the police department.
Sure.
Unfortunately, we don't have any more time, but I want to
Okay.
thank you
Yeah, anytime.
for coming
Yeah.
and speaking with me.
Thank
You
you.
answered a lot of questions, and I hope that everyone will stay tuned and, we can have you on again.
Anytime.
Thank you, Mr. Rubbo. I
You're
appreciate
very welcome.
it.
Thank you. Thanks, Donna.